Welcome back to another episode of the Diabetes Digital Podcast. This is Jess here, your co-host. And if you are new, we are a group practice of dietitians who focus on nutrition counseling for people with diabetes, prediabetes, PCOS, and everything in between. Now, today we are answering a question that we got on Instagram. This is a DM, and I thought it would be good to answer this because it comes up so often. And I also see this everywhere online. And unfortunately, I see a ton of misinformation. So the question is, I was just diagnosed with prediabetes. What is the first step?
Welcome to the Diabetes Digital Podcast. I'm Wendy.
And I'm Jess, and we're best friends, registered dietitians, and diabetes educators.
Through our telehealth platform, diabetesdigital.co, we offer accessible and personalized virtual nutrition counseling for people with diabetes and prediabetes.
Visit diabetesdigital.co, that's C-O, to book your first appointment. We accept insurance and offer affordable self-pay options. Now, let's get into today's episode.
So I think it's really important to start with understanding of what prediabetes means, because when I talk to clients, I'm often surprised to hear that they're not really sure what it even means or what's happening in their body. Maybe their doctor didn't have time to go over it with them, or they said everything would be fine. And I think it's important to just understand what's going on. So prediabetes, in a nutshell, means that your blood sugar is higher than normal, but not quite high enough for a diabetes diagnosis. So I like to think of prediabetes as a possible warning sign that, your body's having a little bit more of a harder time processing blood glucose. Maybe you're becoming more insulin resistant, which means that blood glucose that you need for energy is having a harder time getting into your cells. But the nice thing about prediabetes is it's not a death sentence. It's not a life sentence. It doesn't mean you're definitely going to develop diabetes. It can just be a gentle nudge to kind of look at potentially what's going on. So I also want to reassure you that if you do have a diagnosis of prediabetes, you did not cause this. It is a complicated combination of genetics, hormones, environment, and in some cases, habits. And that's what we help people work with as dietitians. We focus a lot on habits and behaviors. And there are a lot of ways that we can help support your body. There's a lot of different things we can do. So I think a good first step, honestly, is just raising awareness on what's going on. So looking to see at what you're eating and how it might be affecting your blood glucose levels. The best way I think to do this is with a registered dietitian, like our dietitians here at Diabetes Digital, because we work with clients who are using things like a CGM or continuous glucose monitor short term to make different connections on how certain meals affect your blood glucose and what those trends might mean over time. So I can think of one client in particular where we use this method of kind of looking at a CGM and seeing what different foods she was eating and what impact they were having on her blood glucose. And she was having a lot of granola in the morning for breakfast, right? And she was like, oh, this is something that's healthy. And granola is healthy and all foods can fit in a balanced diet. But for her, it was causing really big elevations in her blood glucose levels. And so when we switched out that granola for a toast with avocado and eggs, it didn't have as big of an impact on her blood glucose. So that's why sometimes raising awareness, and like I said, with the help of a dietitian, can be really beneficial. So the next thing I want you to focus on is trying to add more fiber and protein to your meals. So you can start simple by adding a veggie to your lunch. You can even swap juice for a whole fruit. That's going to give you more fiber, or including more protein with your breakfast. So maybe adding those eggs in with your toast and not just having the toast by itself. I also highly recommend taking a 10-minute walk after dinner. There's a ton of research to suggest that this can be very helpful in helping to keep your blood sugars more balanced and have just a good impact on your A1C overall. And by the way, A1C is your average blood glucose over a 3-month period of time. So these shifts, though small, they can really make a big difference. And we have seen it time and time again with our patients and also with ourselves. Like I have been diagnosed with prediabetes before and did a lot of these, small changes and was able to get my blood sugar back at target. One thing I want to leave you with is don't go extreme. Start small and focus on consistency over perfection. While I applaud people being very enthusiastic, especially in the beginning of a diagnosis, like that enthusiasm kind of wears down over time, and we need to make sure that any habits that we're changing are things you can do long term. So, no, you don't need to go on keto. No, you don't need to go low carb. No, you don't need to cut out everything. Focus on consistent, doable habits, and that can make a really big impact overall. And we've seen it time and time again with many of our clients. For example, we had a client whose A1C went from 6.1, which is in the prediabetes range, to 5.5 just by eating breakfast, walking regularly, and being consistent, not trying to be perfect and not cutting anything out. All right, so if this is something that you want to learn more about and have the support of a insurance-covered registered dietitian, definitely check us out at Diabetes Digital. We accept insurance, so most of our clients don't pay anything out of pocket for their nutrition visit, and you can make an appointment online at diabetesdigital.co/quiz. Again, that's diabetesdigital.co/quiz. So make that appointment. We'll verify your benefits and you'll get started with your dietitian who will help you make sense of your diagnosis and next steps. All right, thanks for listening.
Thanks for joining us for today's episode. If you're interested in nutrition counseling with one of our expert dietitians to help improve your prediabetes or diabetes, visit us at diabetesdigital.co.
Also, if you found our conversation helpful, do us a favor and rate and review this podcast on iTunes, plus share with someone who might find this helpful. You can also connect with us on Instagram at diabetesdigital.co.
And tune in every Wednesday for practical, inclusive, and culturally humble diabetes insights. We'll catch you later. Bye.